Further debate? The member for Flamborough-Glanbrook.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before I start speaking to Bill 87, I just wanted to acknowledge that I am wearing the sweater from the Hamilton Bulldogs, signed by a number of the young players on the team who were really not much older than Logan Boulet, who, of course, was the young Humboldt, Saskatchewan player who a year ago lost his life in that tragic accident, and whose death has inspired millions of Canadians to acknowledge both the importance and the value of organ donation. Madam Speaker, it is a pleasure to rise in the House today to speak in support of Bill 87, our government's Fixing the Hydro Mess Act. During last year's election, my colleagues and I in the government committed to cleaning up the mess the Liberals had made out of our hydro system and to cut hydro prices by 12%. Madam Speaker, this was one of our 5 key commitments during last year's campaign, and we are delivering results for Ontarians with this bill as well as other work that has preceded it. Speaker, I would first like to commend our Minister of Energy, Northern Development and Mines, as well as his parliamentary assistant, my very dear friend, the member from Markham-Stouffville, for the fantastic job that they are doing in keeping our government's promises on this front. I know they will continue to work hard to serve the interest of ratepayers across the province. Ratepayers are tired of constantly footing the bill for years of waste and mismanagement. In far too many cases, they are tired of having to make a choice between paying for food or paying their utility bills. They elected us to change this, to reverse this trend, and Speaker, that's exactly what we are doing. Just last month, the minister put his foot down when it came to executive compensation at Hydro One, capping it at less than a quarter of the former CEO's direct compensation. Our government, along with a majority of Ontarians, felt that it was about time Hydro One stopped taxing, or rather taking our tax dollars for granted. Now, with Bill 87, our government is proposing more steps forward that will help keep our promise of putting more money in the pockets of ratepayers. If passed, the Fixing the Hydro Mess Act would achieve the following. It would find savings of up to $442 million by refocusing and uploading electricity conservation programs to the independent electricity operator. It would overhaul the Ontario Energy Board to make the regulatory system more efficient and accountable while continuing to protect consumers. It would hold residential electricity bills to the rate of inflation. It would wind down the Fair Hydro Plan, saving billions of dollars in borrowing costs. And it would introduce a new transparent rebate that is clearly stated on consumer bills to replace the Fair Hydro Plan. Madam Speaker, I would first like to provide some context as to why the Fixing the Hydro Act is so important and why our government put forward this piece of legislation. For 15 years, the previous government just stood by as electricity prices increased at an unsustainable pace, in some cases doubling or even tripling. In fact, you could say that some of their policies were contributing factors to those increases. And what's worse is that the Liberals thought they could get away with it just before the last election by borrowing billions, that's billions of dollars, in order to provide rebates for the same people whose rates had skyrocketed under their era of waste and mismanagement. In essence, they were saying, sorry for nearly tripling your electricity rates and calling it a fair hydro plan. Speaker, how is this fair? We on the government side of the House didn't fall for this scam, and it's accurate to say that neither did the people of Ontario. For years, the Liberals sat in these benches blaming everyone but themselves for the hydro mess. But, Speaker, I ask you, what exactly did they do about it in the 15 years they were in government? Did they work hard to come up with solutions? Did they work hard to fix what they believed was broken by past governments? I, along with my colleagues and most Ontarians, would say, no, they did not. The Liberals launched the Green Energy Act 10 years ago with such fanfare. Our province was promised a large economic boost, more jobs, cheaper electricity bills, and substantial improvements to the environment. The Green Energy Act was meant to help the economy recover from the last recession and lead to a greener environment. Unfortunately, Speaker, we now know it was all hype with no substance. We now know what really happened: skyrocketing hydro prices with nothing to justify the increases. As I've said in this House before, I was co-hosting a current affairs program called Square Off on CHCH television in Hamilton when the Green Energy Act was first introduced. When the Act was being discussed on air, some things just didn't add up to me. The arguments made in favour of the Act seemed hollow. My reservations about the Green Energy Act and other aspects of the high-spending Liberals motivated me to run for office. Fast forward to today, and I am honoured to now be part of a government that is willing to do the right thing and take the necessary steps for Ontarians to see concrete improvements to their lives. We are reducing red tape on business. We are ending years of wasteful spending. And with Bill 87, we are well underway to cutting hydro bills by fixing the mess. One of the more substantive ways in which the Fixing the Hydro Mess Act will be living up to its name is the way our government intends to centralize and refocus conservation programs. The current conservation funding structure cost the electricity system over $1 billion, as well as up to $150 million in bonus payments to local distribution companies, or LDCs, for program delivery. By contrast, this legislation would lead to central program delivery by the independent electricity system operator rather than the LDCs. This change would put an end to the millions in bonus payments that actually do nothing to help conservation. All told, this amounts to a savings of over $442 million that will help lower rates for large employers, giving them the opportunity to invest more into their companies and to create more good jobs. This transition to centralized conservation will lead to large savings for businesses right across Ontario. For example, an auto sector company consumer could see a bill reduction of about $15,000 per month, not $15,000 a year, but $15,000 a month. A mining sector company could see their bills reduced by about $30,000 a month. Speaker, these are real, very significant savings that could be put towards wages for staff or increased benefits. Another major aspect of the Fixing the Hydro Mess Act is the winding down of the Fair Hydro Plan, resulting in saving of billions of dollars in borrowing costs. The Fair Hydro Plan turned out to be anything but fair, and very far from a plan. According to estimates from the Financial Accountability Office of Ontario, the Fair Hydro Plan cost Ontarians $4 billion in borrowing costs. $4 billion. That, Speaker, is a ridiculous amount of money spent on such a flawed plan. As if the past 15 years of Liberal governments aren't proof enough, we should not be surprised that the Liberals wasted as much as they did. Bill 87, if passed, would replace the Fair Hydro Plan with a new, transparent, on-bill rebate that consumers will start seeing this November. We want customers to know the true cost of the power that they are using, and new rebate will be clearly displayed on hydro bills as a single line item. Another part of Bill 87 that I would like to touch on is how our government is proposing to take steps to modernize the Ontario Energy Board by improving the organizational governance, promoting regulatory excellence, and cutting red tape. In recent years, the OEB hasn't been living up to its obligation to serve the interest of electricity ratepayers. Our government wants to make the following changes to the OEB through Bill 87. We want to establish a new governance structure and better separate the Ontario Energy Board's management, administration, and adjudication responsibilities. We want to streamline processes by amending the OEB's consumer education objective and reduce duplicate responsibilities between the OEB and the IESO. And we want to promote efficiency and reduce the regulatory burden by requiring the OEB to report on its efforts to simplify energy sector regulations on a yearly basis. Madam Speaker, as one of the 5 main pillars of our campaigns last year, our government is willing to do whatever it takes to keep this promise that we made to voters. The Fixing the Hydro Mess Act is fundamental to our government's vision to get back on the right track when it comes to the hydro sector. And that is why, Madam Speaker, I am pleased to be supporting Bill 87, and I ask my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.